And my attitude when I came out of drama college was that I wanted to be a performer, I wanted to write, and I probably also wanted to direct. And while I was at drama college, it's probably worth saying this, that I made a kind of rule for myself that if I worked in evenings or weekends or during vacation, I would try and get jobs in the theatre doing anything. And more or less that's what I did, so I operated lights, I helped on stage crews, did all sorts of things, so that I was building all my skills. And so then when I worked in theatre as a director, I knew what everybody in the building did. Nowadays, with computerized lighting boards and fancy sound equipment, I think I need to do a big refresher course. But when I was working in theatre, I could have gone and worked a lighting desk, a soundboard, and I certainly knew how to move scenery and sweep the stage. And I think that's very useful. It's useful whether it's broadcasting or theatre or even film to understand what all the jobs are and learn about them.
Great. Got a question for you. What advice would you have for writers who are trying to get into the scene?
Advice for writers, well, again, it's a hard world to get into, writing for any of the media. I think that it's a long-term thing. You have to think carefully about what you want to write about, and that's a sort of constant thing throughout your career, and see your career as a long-term thing as a writer. And you might have to do other work while your writing's getting going. There are a lot of writers that, even though they're successful writers, continue to do other work because it keeps them in the world, it keeps them meeting people. I've said listen to lots of radio. You can send in plays, send in a draft, or you can send in a synopsis or a treatment with some sample scenes to us and we'll read it. But that, again, persevere. Think about what you want to write. And continue to build your skills. I often think that the best way to develop your skills as a writer is, you can do courses, you can read books, that's all very useful. But the most useful thing is to watch plays, watch things on telly, go to the movies, listen to radio plays, record them, play them back. And the ones that you really, really like, analyze them, find out what it is that you liked about them. The ones that you hate, do the same with them. Work out why you don't like that program. What is it that makes it boring or terrible writing? And you'll learn a lot from that. And I don't know what age you are, or anyone in the audience, or on the web. Hello, web people. But BBC Scotland Radio Drama and the Playwrights Studio Scotland are running a very exciting competition called Ignite, and I've got some postcards about it. And with Ignite, what we're doing is we're looking for new writers aged between 16 and 26, and writers have to submit a scene, an idea for a play by the 10th of January, and we're going to shortlist 8 writers. We're going to give them a workshop day with professional actors, and then we're going to pick 2 writers. And over a period of months, we're going to give them professional mentoring by professional playwrights so that they can develop their idea or their scene into a 45-minute radio play or stage play. We're then going to record extracts from these plays in our radio studio with professional actors, not for broadcast, but as a workshop to see how they work so that the young writers can get experience of working with actors. All the details are on the Playwrights Studio Scotland website, which is, let me give you the website, this is for people listening on the net. If you Google Playwrights Studio Scotland, you'll find it, but it is playwrightstudio.co.uk. And if you go on that site, you'll find information about the competition and the project. And we're also doing a series of workshops around Scotland as a kind of launch for this. So that's one way of getting involved. There's another great site that the BBC has called the Writers' Room. And the Writers' Room, again, if you go to bbc.co.uk/Writers' Room, you should find it. And the Writers' Room gives you information about all the BBC television, radio departments, but it also has sample scripts that you can download and read and see how things are laid out as well. And it also has advice about writing from playwrights. It also has information about opportunities and competitions and different ways you can get involved as a writer. So that's worth having a look at.
What's the website address for that? We can get it up.
bbc.co.uk/Writers' Room. Hey, fantastic. And there we have it on the screen behind me. Again, for the web listeners, it's on the screen behind me. If you click your little finger, you'll find it as well.
There's lots of information there online.
Yeah, and somewhere on the site there's also scripts that you can download. And of course, what I haven't talked about is BBC Comedy. Now, my department mainly makes drama, but of course, a lot of the dramas that we make are very humorous as well. They might even be serious subjects, but they've got humour in them. But there's, of course, the BBC's entertainment department who make comedy as well. Radio 4 broadcasts about 400 hours of drama a year and about 300 hours of comedy. And a lot of comedy that's on television has its roots in radio. You probably know this. You know, things like Little Britain, they started on the radio. So radio comedy is a very big area for writers to get into, both at the network level on BBC 7, Radio 7 rather, and Radio 4, but also in Radio Scotland. Radio Scotland makes a lot of comedy programmes as well. So we make that locally at Pacific Quay.
Any other questions that you have?
I just, going back to something you were talking about quite a while back when you were talking about development stage and then going forward to commissioning, is it similar to the sort of film industry where you can get writers working on scripts for years, quite successful writers, but then ultimately not necessarily getting the thing made because it costs so much money? Or would you say that with radio your chances are higher maybe of having your finished product?
Well, radio is very different in lots of ways. I mean, one, we don't encourage writers to overdevelop scripts if we don't think we're going to be able to sell them. So at the offer stage, when we're offering projects to Radio 4, say, we need to know that the writer can write a play. We need to know that there is a very strong idea for a play there, because at the end of the day we're spending public money on it, or we will be. So with a writer new to radio, we'd need to see a treatment, two-page treatment, and either a first draft sample script or a fair amount of sample scenes. So the kind of development that we will do will be to that stage, or if someone sends us a first draft of a script and we think it's a really good idea and there's good writing in it, we might say to the writer, this is great, but we can't even offer it yet because that script is not strong enough. So we'll give them some advice, and if they want to go away and rewrite it, that's fine. What we won't do is keep them hanging on for years. We try to take pragmatic decisions. And once a play is commissioned, pretty well, damn it, gets made. Why is that? Well, we work very hard with the writers to make the script work. Very occasionally something falls by the wayside. But when you work in a radio play as a writer, you're only working with one person, the producer. So it's a very close relationship, and we just work very hard to try and make that work.